Hello. So this is Learning for My Reptiles. I am Daniel Yates, and the channel is about learning science and how to deal with people for my reptiles. This is a 2-day-old Savannah monitor baby that I've captive bred myself. See how pretty it is? Like, this is a day old. Like, literally hatched this week. Like, within 2 or 3 days at best, at worst. Yeah, so this is, see how I'm supporting all the limbs, making sure that that tail is not actually curling up out of fear, but just out of balance. Because the curl usually means that they are uncomfortable. So this is the second clutch my girl has had. And we'll be talking about the Savannah monitors a lot. Now, this is a 4-month-old Savannah monitor from their first clutch. This one may go to a new home, but we've absolutely, see that tail is not even curling up. It's not uncomfortable. Very sweet thing. Yeah, pattern showing up pretty well. But yeah. So this, yeah. So I'm supporting all the limbs. It's not scared. Yeah, I'm not even petting it. Said, oh. Yeah, so this one's a good one. I think we've got it sold, but we're still working on it. I like it. It's hard to release this one. This one's a good one. And we'll be talking about these as well today. So today we are actually talking about how these animals actually see us. And this is these guys are great examples. Like, there's so much I have learned from just freaking Savannah monitors. So let's talk about the fact that they see us. How do they actually see us? So we're going to go ahead and put this one back. So this is a video game called Psychonauts. It was from 2005. There's a boy that goes to a camp with psychic powers, and he develops more powers, and there's so much psychology. They actually go to different people's brains, and there's a thing called clairvoyance. And this clairvoyance, we see on the screen, he's going into people's minds, and this is how they see him. Every person sees him differently. We see this in real life. Like, my suggestion to most people, when you go to a new job, immediately assert whatever you want to be seen as. If you've seen as just a worker, then that's all they see you as. They'll never see you as actual manager. So this is really fascinating from a human standpoint. So this absolutely happens in the real world. Like, we want to believe that hard work, but hard work only works when the other person sees you as a potential for something else. And we can see that everybody has such different notions. This is how reptiles see us so differently. See, it's an ear. So they not only see us as what we
fire starters,
them,
levitators,
as individual pieces.
levitators.
And that's all they really see right away, because our brains are looking for connections. They have limited neurons, and so they're always looking for connections. So here, you see, this man actually sees him as a question mark, static. They see us this way as well. Like, they're not for sure, they're not familiar with us. There's all these different things that they see. So I have target trained my Tagu. So I've thrown a worm and it landed right here. And he waited till I showed him the target and went up and actually went and got it. So they can associate. One of the easiest things I've ever done. Just when you go to feed them, show them the target. Eventually, they correlate it. They actually remember it as being this. So reptiles do remember things. They actually remember their territory. It's very fascinating too. So this is an example right here. So this is Pitch, and she's been in the window and out. She knows there's bugs outside, so she knows to go into the window. And yet, because she knows this is not how she gets outside, she knows to go to the front door. And so that door is thick, but she lives right there. She is super smart for a reptile, but she actually knows to go to the door to get out to get the bugs. Like, this is literally her knowing in 3D because they think in 3D. So that was her literally going, hey, I know where I need to go to get outside. I go to the window. I go to the door. I should be able to get out some way. Even though the door is that thick, to her, she doesn't see the door as a wall. The door is an exit. And it's so fascinating. I don't fully understand what she's seeing because she can't see out that door. The windows are at the top of that door. But yet she knows that's the way out because they see it in 3D. So we know they can associate. We know they remember. And they can remember a lot. So here's the thing with that. My adult Savannah monitors, it took 3 years to get her to do this. This is Hate. Hate is the girl. And she is going on 4. And this is how she treats me now after 3 years. But this is also when she decided to breed. After she decided that she was comfortable with me and felt this safe with me. So now I'm a tree to her. We can also see here, this is Hate. See how she's going after my hands? She doesn't go after my feet. My feet mean nothing to her. I mean nothing to her. But it's like a dog following my hand. And you're going, well, it's over your head. No, it doesn't matter. She doesn't do this anymore, but she used to. See how she'll lick my leg? And to her, my hands, go after my hands. Whereas Love here used to let me hold him when he was a baby. But this is how he is now. After 4 years, he is still this way. And he calms down in the presence of Hate. Because they lived together for 3 years. So what's actually going on? See, Love let me hold him when he was younger. Hate would not. Hate still doesn't let me hold her when she's inside. But Love does. Love lets me hold him when he's cold. He literally will run into my room at night when he gets scared, free roaming the apartment. Hate will only let me hold her like that outside. She wants nothing to do with me inside. But she no longer goes after my hands. But as you saw there, she doesn't go after me. Whereas Love, if I try to hold him out there, he literally turns around and bites me on the nipple. So what is happening is they are dissociating. And I think there's a study to be done here. Their brains, so he's handicapped. He has a bad arm. His left arm is bad from birth. So he cannot dissociate as well as she can. She dissociates my hands from me. And here's the thing. This would be an interesting study to do on humans. If you're handicapped from birth or you really have a bad handicap, is it harder for you to dissociate than a normal person? This explains so much, to be honest with you. Just explains so much of human behavior because we need to dissociate. And since we can't simply just dissociate every single time, we actually fall into some things. So it's very fascinating. So do handicapped people have more trouble? Because love does. Love has way more trouble dissociating than hate does. And I'm going to show you a brain here in just a second. This is a ball python brain. But this is fine. This part of the brain that I've placed all these objects in is their memory and imagination and everything. So if we look at this as you, as the human being down here. So this is your hands. This is me. These are my hands. This is food. So every time she saw food, she also saw my hands. So the red tongs here, they used to like bite down on the red tongs. You see how it was so smooth? So the red tongs to them is correlated with food. So they used to just snag that red tong, and then they realized this is not food. And as they learned, as they grow, they actually went, hey, this is not food. That bug at the end of it is food. And so you saw how lightly it grabbed that bug. I actually let them do it with my hands. That's how much I trust them to just slightly. And they do. It's so amazing that they actually do it that way. It's some of the coolest things. And they're activating their cerebral cortex or their cerebellum. And that's what's doing that. That's what they're doing. And it's just boop. And so now they know not to bite the red tongs. But before they correlated the red tongs with food. So they got food aggressive towards the red tongs. So let's go back to this. So now there's several ways to look at this. You could think, okay, so if their memory of me is over here, also memory of my hands is attached to the food. Well, what if we move this? So that's one way that they might actually do this. So they have the food attached with your hands. But yet your hands are also in a separate spot. But to also, because think about how much storage space they have. They don't have anywhere near the storage space we do, so they need to overlap things. So what if they were doing this? So now we're erasing the hands over here. They don't have our hands separate. So when, copy this, we're going to erase this. So now they have us. No food. We are not correlated with food. But if you add food, we disappear. And the food is correlated with our hands. But then when you take away the food, we reappear. That's another way they would do it. And that's dissociation. And since we look at this Psychonaut, see how he sees the main character as a bunch of question marks, as if he doesn't really exist. He doesn't actually know what he is. This is how they see us sometimes when they're doing that. Everything in the background disappears because they have limited space. Pitch is actually very indifferent to human beings. She loves looking at other animals. She loves looking at fish. She loves going to different parks. She gets bored going to the same park. and she gets bored with human beings. We're just not that interesting to her. She doesn't see a reason to keep us in the forefront of her memories. So it's very fascinating. So that's what's happening in their brain. They are correlating us with different things. And this helps them save space. Think about how much space that saves them to just make us disappear and just see my hands. Food, hands. But then if there's no food, what's interesting, they think more about being eaten than they do about eating. And everybody, because it's such a extreme act most of the time to see them eat. But yet, we actually don't think of it that way. So Pitch will puff up at a robin. That robin ain't gonna eat her. No, I've had 5 dogs in 5 years actually walk up to Pitch or Calm Fancy, my beardies. 5 in 5 years. Not one has ever thought about eating them because it's not their prey item. Now, once they register that, then they will actually go after it. Pitch will puff up at the fish. The fish will double take. And we actually don't see them chasing down, having that food response towards the other one. I had another one picked out, and we see that the monitor doesn't do that. How many times have you guys, so when you show these things to each other with glass between them safely, that is a great experiment for you to understand your personal animal. And I know people, well, don't do that, it's dangerous. No. If there's glass between them, they don't know what glass is. They don't know what plastic is. They see, unless you're an anole or a gecko who actually can attach to it, they don't see it. They don't register it. They forget about it because it's not important to their lives in their heads. If it's not important, think about how all those campers saw the main character. In Psychonauts, we see all these different campers, and they're all seeing him so differently. He's a hockey player. That's because the person sees him as a hockey player. He's the fire starter, so they see him as he's a cowboy. They see him so differently. This is actually one of the best representation of how reptiles see us. Whatever they're correlating us with is how they see us. And so if you're important enough to them. So Fauno here is a lab, is a lab in Ukraine. And they posted about how these animals see us as shadows, as an outline, as the hair, as the clothing or something. They see us in very narrow view, but there's so many people that say they don't see us individually. I do slow blinks on a lot of these animals. So that lab is right and wrong. Because I do slow blinks, and reticulated pythons have actually responded to that. A lot of reptiles respond to that. Beardies aren't going to respond to it because they're in no danger of you. The staring is, I'm a predator and I'm going to eat you, or I'm scared of you and I might hurt you. So if you slow blink, but that means they see the eyes. They see the individual eyes. A lot of reptiles do. Not all reptiles have sight. We go to the tokay gecko. They do not have a 4D model. But we can see here at the bottom of the screen, I apologize, but we have a ball python at the bottom, a bearded dragon, a day gecko, and then the actual tokay gecko. And so I highlighted right here what part we're talking about. This second hump, the second hump here is what we're talking about, what we're referring to. This is their sight dissection. So when their eyes take in the information, this is where it's dissected. And we can see the top one is so much smaller than all the others in this one area, meaning that there is a disshapen to it. So the tokay gecko doesn't dissect its sight as well as other reptiles. So yes, it will see you as a shadow. It probably struggles to see, your individual parts of your face. And that place, that laboratory, deals with a lot of smaller geckos and a lot of smaller lizards. So they may actually have that smaller optic tactum. So making it more that they should see, make it harder to see the individual parts. But that doesn't mean most reptiles don't see the smaller parts. And so they correlate you with whatever that is. So this is really helpful to understand. So why does my animal act differently to this person than to this person? Because the individual little pieces aren't adding up. And we can see that their brain has limited space. So if you're doing something that's completely different that they don't know, they don't have that mapped in their brain, then yeah, it's new. It's hey, what is that? But yet, going back to a little bit of structure, like I say, when you hold a lizard, hold all its limbs, support all the limbs, hold it up and away from you, and don't bring it here, you bring it out here, away from your face, to where you're not looking directly at it. You're looking like this, so you see it. You can clearly see the reptile, but you're not setting off its fight or flight. And if it's uncomfortable still, it's because it's uncomfortable because it doesn't know what's happening. So this is why I show it windows or another reptile that's calm, and you'll see it instantly calm down. We see that with Love, the Savannah monitor. When I pull him out of the bag to go to walks and stuff, I will set him directly next to Hate. Calm down. Just instantly calm down. And she takes 3 years to calm herself down when she's outside. And now, very comfortable. They see the bag that I use as freedom. Now, one of the other interesting things, why are some of the things that they change? Because they do change. This is what it is forever. But yet, the older they get, they're just like humans. So I have a guy at work, and he's in his 50s. We have a running gag. We don't ask him what music he dislikes. We ask him what he likes, because there is so much less to choose from when he likes the music. Because everything on the radio sucks. Everything, even the oldies, he hates because it's been outplayed so much. Like, there's so much better songs than that one from that band. Because he's old. This is the bands and the music he was used to. And as he aged, that's what his neurons did. So that's what they see. That's what they correlate. That music. Dylan Parrish has a 13, 19-year-old gecko, crested gecko, that likes to sit on the glass. Well, think about that. He upgraded it, and it still sits on the glass, even though it has tons of hiding spots, because it's old. And just like my buddy, its neurons are set in to where this thing just feels comfortable on the glass. Just the glass. So there's other reasons why they would change as well. So we're looking at a bunch of different monitors. Before I sold off all of the 6, I sold 6 to Mickey from Show Me Reptiles. And most of them are pretty tame. You see him holding it that way. We're letting it lick us. We're putting it back. No poop. Most of these are very calm. There's no pooping. There's no, problem. There's one that's really that outgrew. There's a male that outgrew all the others pretty quickly. It was the first one born. I should have kept it, but it's very spicy. You can see it right there, that big one. Yeah, it's spicy. He's spicy. Where all the others are nowhere near that spicy. They're pretty tame overall. They're not pooping on me. I'm not really holding them very, they may not want to be held, but they're not curling their tails. They're pretty tamed down. But I know how to hold them as well. So we can see almost all of them are completely tamed down except for that one. This is 2 weeks later. Look at him. This is a one that was the second biggest out of the clutch. And now that the rest are gone, this one gained confidence. And so all of a sudden, it changed completely. Where the one beneath me, look at her. Look at the one beneath me. It's just so tame. Where this one's not. It got confident after being scared. And now it does this. But she's taming down again. This is the one that is tamed already. Like these guys, I trust them so much. This one was cold. This is the tame one. See how it's out in the open? It sleeps out in the open. Very tame, very calm. That one was very tame prior to getting rid of the other 6. And now it feels comfortable and confident. But yet, I still trust it enough. She was dirty. Dirty, dirty girl. See, the one underneath is the one that's not as tamed, but she's taming down again. I've seen this in a bearded dragon that I rehabbed, where after she got better, see, take it from my fingers. I'm not even worried about it biting me. And that's the untamed one that I still have. That's how much trust I have in those animals, because I know them. I've seen this behavior before. Once it got to the point where it was comfortable, Hydra was 4 months old as a bearded dragon and couldn't lift herself off the ground. She lived to be about 3 before she passed away from something. Yeah, she never grew fat pads, laid 2 clutches every year. She, after 2 weeks, I've got video, and she's jumping around the enclosure after I rehabbed her. And she literally, you could hear me crying in the video. Then she got to the point where she was, I'm a mean, big, scary dragon. Oh, A couple weeks later, she was calm. She was fine. Literally, anytime something bad happens, runs to the top of my head. These animals may not like me, but they trust me. And I've built that. And I think there's a lot of people like that. I think this is something to remember. So it's really a fascinating thing. But also, here's another thing. As we talked about, they map their territory. Very old herper was talking to me. Was talking in the Herp Society. He's been all over the country herping. And he knows where to go. Like he knows that microhabitat. Not just the habitat. The microhabitat they're looking for. And he will tell you straight up. Once you find what that species likes, what they really like in that area, you can go anywhere. And you're looking for that little microhabitat. That microhabitat. and you'll find them there. And that's how he finds them so well. He's associating them with that microhabitat. They do the same thing with that microhabitat. So they don't see the whole world as their world. They see it as a microhabitat. Oh, look, that board over there, that big plate. I've seen that before. I'm going to go in there. I know that's safety. That's how they think. That's how their brains work. Their brains is not, I'm going to catch that. Look, it's over there. I could eat that. No, their first instinct is not, I can eat that, unless they're already thinking about it like that. Now, once they've associated eating it, then it triggers that, and they go for it. That's why they often, like the baby Savannahs, have trouble wanting to eat the mealworms. But they'll go after the dubious. And the red runners, like they're on fire, just like, oh, because they register that running with that bug being afraid of them and food. So they like that. And so they are registering these things just like we do, but they have, where we have terabytes, they may have megabytes. So they absolutely have to do this to survive. They have to forget things that are not important to them. So from a scientific standpoint, this is how they think. Their thinking is not, but it does fascinate me to no end. Because when that robin lands and Pitch goes, I'm too big to eat, that robin ain't thinking, I'm going to eat this thing. This thing would hurt me if I tried to eat it. But the robin's curious. The robin isn't necessarily saying to itself, I'm going to eat this thing. But it's still curious. These animals do have other thoughts than I just want to feed. And it's so fascinating. So we know that they associate. They think in associations. So you are only what they associate you with. So, and that's the other thing. Like people are like, well, these things, they don't take in positive sight. Dude, I've got Cuban night anoles that I have rehabbed. And they will eat off tongs. They'll eat off my fingertips. Not all the time. But they literally would, when they were needing help, they were young and they needed help. And they saw me help other ones. They saw me, actually work with other ones. So they weren't actually as scared of me. And then once I fixed it, that's kind of what they remember. But they don't always keep that memory. They still have limited space, so they might get rid of it. But then there's other reasons why they might get rid of it, because they got more confidence, because who knows? Like, we can't sit here and tell you every single thought, how they see our individual parts, but they do see us in individual parts as well as seeing us as a whole. They do both. They have to. This is not, oh, well, Daniel, this is, no. It's like, no, they have to. And all of that is right. Because they're individuals. They develop individually. It's so fascinating. So we know they see in associations. And they disassociate anything that's not important to them. At that moment, too. If it's not important to them at that moment, they disassociate. If it's important to them, they associate. We know that they actually think in 3D. They associate land property, the microhabitats. They associate that too with safety and other factors, I'm sure. I don't know all the factors. There's no way I could ever know all the factors. But they associate it. Like that gecko that sticks to the glass. Plenty of heights. Why is it just sticking to the glass? Because it associates glass with safety. It's old, it's safety. We do the exact same thing. we do the exact same thing. We know that they can change for any given reason. But we also know that if they're uncomfortable, they're going to have a harder time. We know that if they're he goes, there's theories that we should put to the test that if they're handicapped, they may have trouble dissociating. Whereas if they're not, they should dissociate. But here's also something cool. So how do they see themselves? We can see these, is that we see this rainbow boa, this horned desert viper, this bearded dragon, and this fire skink. They're forebrained. This is imagination, decision-making, and memory like we talked about before. See how different they all look? When we look at the actual tilting of these two brains, the bearded dragon and fire skink, we don't see it in the desert horned viper or the rainbow boa. This is because I believe the basal ganglia sits underneath the forebrain. And if you 2D map the basal ganglia, which only deals in movement, and that's where your brain goes, okay, we need to make these movements, and it sends it to the basal ganglia, that sends it to the optic tactum, that sends it down to your medulla to move. So if we 2D map these forebrains, we should see a correlation with the shape of the basal ganglia in 2D, like over here. See how this has these humps here? And we see the hump here, they're kind of the same. We see a little bit of this here. The red and the blue are dealing with the basal ganglia. And we can see how the basal ganglia in 2D kind of is similar to the way that the forebrain is. And so this middle one, this middle picture, shows us this is the area of the brain that 3D maps our body. So at the top is either head and feet, or the bottom is head and feet. And it actually goes through like fingertips, legs, arms, blah, blah, blah. And it 3D maps it here. So we can see that these two species that sit up during movement actually have tilted brains. Well, we know the rainbow boa moves in reticulation, which is a straight line. And we know that the horned desert viper moves in sidewinder. So this would explain why the different shapes of the brains, of the forebrains. When we look at the hognose snake, this 3D modeling kind of helps us understand. It's kind of an amalgamation of both of those. When we go to D here, we see that it's kind of like a balloon swallowed the battery, like an amalgamation of both the brains. And the reason why it does this, because the hognose can do both. Recoilization, move in a straight line, or it can sidewind. But also, there's a little bit of a tilt to it if we look at C. And that tilting is probably due to the fact that it digs. And that digging motion is sitting up. So this is really fascinating. So these animals' forebrains develop differently due to the basal ganglia, I believe, theoretically. And it makes sense. Since their brains are not just smaller, they're lean. So here's the other thing. So as we talked about before, this is a modeling of our 3D parts right here. So what if we were to do that here? So here we go. Boom. Over the forebrain. Those are not the same. That is the same direction. So if it holds up, okay, so what if we did it a different way? So what if we did it this way? That. Still not the same. Their forebrains are just different to the point that they do not see themselves the same unless there's more of a circular motion to it, how they see themselves, how they map their own bodies. And they do map their bodies. This has to be correct. But we don't have the technology to figure this out yet. So this is just theoretical, but it makes sense that they would map their bodies. They need to. And so unless it's like this, these animals do not see themselves the same. And I think that's fascinating. So they're both snakes. So they should be able to move their, 3D map their bodies exactly the same. But they don't. There's no way that is the exact same 3D model. And it would be very fascinating to figure out exactly how this works. So this is a study for later on. So we know that they see us as how we interact with them, how we actually, they dissociate when they don't need us, when they don't want us. When they need us and want us, they associate us with stuff. They see us, they associate us with stuff. They see us as individual parts, and they see us as the whole. And depending on if you're a smaller lizard and snake that has possibly worse eyesight or struggle to dissect the eyesight, then what you see is probably more of the bigger picture. You see less of the individual parts. But they also associate microhabitats. That's how their whole world works, because they have so little space just to take in everything. And what we see with rattlesnakes is when they relocate them, they can die. There's been multiple studies that have suggested relocating rattlesnakes is almost a death sentence for them. And I think that's something to remember. So if they are understanding microhabitats and things like that, that's how we need to start thinking about it. So when we relocate rattlesnakes, we need to start thinking about microhabitats. How do they see microhabitats? Not how do they see habitats. How do they see microhabitats? How does that individual see microhabitats? And it's so fascinating because they might see another human differently than they see you. They might see you as different than another human. They might see you all the same. Pitch thinks everybody is just boring. Calm Fancy likes everybody. They're individual. They change for multiple reasons. They get older. They get set in their ways just like a human does. And they don't see themselves all the same. Even if they're snakes, they don't actually see their bodies as the same. This is really fascinating. And this is actual neuroscience. This is every study that will come down the line will tell you later on, this is how this stuff actually works. Association and dissociation, because they have to. If they don't, they die. It's actually detriment for them if they don't. So they actually have to forget a ton of stuff. But they do remember when you help them, and they forget as time goes on too. So it's really a very, very fascinating thing, how they actually think. And when you actually work like this is why choice-based handling works. This is why target training works. And think about how much they are not doing in captivity that they would be doing in the wild. So they're not using all the same brain functions. And so, yeah, and that's just captivity. And they map miles. Pitch has mapped the miles and miles from my apartment to the park. She has mapped those. and she forgets. They have short-term and long-term memory as well. They have to. We don't know how long it takes. That's actually individualized and stuff. There's so many studies still left ahead, and I hope that's what we take away from this. It's understanding that there's so much we still need to learn. You need to understand individualized. You need to understand as a species. Does this animal have a larger or smaller optic tactum? Is there parts of it that are smaller? We can't go in and figure out those individual pieces. Why is those little pieces of the tokay gecko smaller than bearded dragons and day geckos and ball pythons? Why are they so much smaller? But not the whole of it is smaller. So it's actually shaped wrong. So therefore, whatever individual part is there dissecting is shrank because they're not using it. Probably because they're nocturnal or they like to live in shadows, so on and so forth. So that does affect them. This is why when you go to tokay geckos, you need to go low and slow. You're not setting off their fight or flight, and you're giving them time. So this is really a fascinating talk, and this is a fascinating subject that I think needs to go farther. There's more studies that can be done, but understanding this, and that Psychonaut is a perfect example. Clairvoyance on Psychonaut, perfect example of just how they see. It's a shoe. He's a shoe. Like, this is just insane. He's just a brain. This person just sees him as a brain. And he's just a little boy. Oh, he sees him as a smaller version of himself. Oh, he sees him as a baby. This is how reptiles think. They see comfort in microhabitats. They see us as these different things that mean something to them. Hey, thank you guys coming to my TED Talk. I want to hear what your thoughts are. I want to hear how you see this. I want to see what you associate and disassociate with. I want to know how you feel about this, because this is such a fascinating topic. We understand they have limited space for memory compared to us. But you have to imagine that game, that video game came out on PlayStation 1. And it looks pretty good. So by today's standards, we are like the PlayStation 5. They're like the PS1. They still got that badass game on PS1. And it's been updated for us. But we fit so much more into that. We put out even more abstract ideas, or they may not have as many abstract ideas. They do have imaginations. And they have to have some abstract on choosing to eat this or not. What is this? Like, their adventurous side probably does a little bit of that, but there's no way it's at a level that ours is, because they have limited space. It's like AI now using a whole data center compared to you, an AI on a laptop. Much different limited space. And so it would make sense that they would associate and disassociate. And it's just so fascinating to think. They also don't see themselves the same. Even though they move almost identical, there's no way that they could possibly see their own bodies as the same. How cool is that idea? It's just so interesting to think that they have thoughts. They're just a lot more limited. Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you staying. You guys, I love you. Hey, please like, share, and subscribe. I'm going to try to put out more of these. I would love to hear your guys' wanting to go more in depth on anything here or ideas on anything, I'm going to try to make some more videos